1975 Thunder Road Milk Bowl winner, 1975, 85, and 92 Oxford 250 winner, and 1996 Busch North Series champion. Dynamite Dave Dion joins us. Dave, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Oh, great. How are you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. So, jump right into things. I know you've got quite a story. I'm looking forward to talking with you here tonight. Of course, Ben and Paul are here as well. First question I like to always ask, how'd you catch the racing bug?
Well, I grew up in a town that had a racetrack, Hudson, New Hampshire, and I, of course, have 5 brothers. We had a little general store, and we used to pump gas, and even as 8, 10-year-olds, and we'd sit out in front. And it was the main road really going to the speedway. And, of course, we're talking in the 50s. And they would go by towing them with a chain, tow bars, all heading for the racetrack. And I just thought someday when I get a little older, I got to find out where they're going. And eventually some farmers I was working for when I was 11 took me to the races.
Excellent.
That's great. This is Ben here. So you won the 1975 Milk Bowl at Thunder Road. Talk to us about that race and what was so special about Thunder Road to you?
That's kind of ironic. That Milk Bowl has always been my favorite race, and we've only won it once. And we've had a lot of success at Thunder Road. But the race I enjoy the most and look forward to the most had very little success except that one year. We won a lot of segments, and somewhere along the line messed up and didn't get the win. But it's still a great race. I think the format. I think other tracks ought to use the format at least a couple times a year.
Dave, this is Paul. How you doing tonight?
Doing wonderful.
I've had the luxury. These guys are a little bit younger than me, so I've seen you race many times up at Lee. I've been up to the Milk Bowl in Thunder Road, Hudson, Star. So I'll tell you a little story. When I was a kid, I took one of my Matchbox cars, and it was black, and I painted it orange and put a 29 on it. And I think my mother almost whipped my butt for ruining my toys and getting paint everywhere. But I was so proud of that car. It just funny times. But hey, one thing I wanted to ask you was, so me and Miles had this discussion today. They call you Dynamite Dave, and for some reason I remember them calling you Diamond Dave.
No,
right?
I don't remember that.
No?
No.
Because for me, I was like arguing with, I know the 29. I was telling Miles, I thought it was Diamond Dave. It's Dynamite Dave.
So I was right. We'll chalk that up. Chalk that one up
right.
as one for Miles.
My childhood was just remembering too much, but.
Well, the real Dynamite was Dynamite Ollie Silva back in the 50s and 60s. Probably one of the greatest talents ever to come out of New England. I think he was from Florida. He raced at St. Petersburg all winter and then came up and ran New England. And then as we eventually with DD, I got it, and I ended up doing a autograph session at John Wall's Lincoln Mercury in Methuen, Mass. And Ollie was there, and of course he was bigger than life to all of us. And I went over and apologized to him that they called me Dynamite because there was really only one real Dynamite, and that was Ollie Silva.
So you bring up a name. I'm going to bring up another name here as well. Many a nights there were battles on the track between the Dions and the Dragons. Share with us maybe one or two stories that really still stick with you today about those battles back in the day.
Well, when we first went up to Vermont after Norwood Arena closed at the end of the 1972 season, and Ken Squire had started the NASCAR North series, the Dragons dominated, and of course there was a number of racing papers that I would read, New England Speedway, seeing a different one, and you would just thumb through the pages, Dragon at Devil's Bowl, Dragon wins Plattsburgh, Dragon wins, between Beaver and Bobby. They totally dominated up there. And it took us quite a while before we could even run competitive against those two. But as it progressed, we kind of became their equal and never really had a problem. The fans kind of, chose one over the other, and they wanted it to be a problem. We never talked. I mean, racing back in those days, you were there to race, to win. And you just didn't socialize like you see today. You might stand next to them at a driver's meeting, and you'd barely say hi. You'd just kind of nod, knowing what was ahead. And I can't think of any race in particular. Maybe a Milk Bowl, the one we won in 1975. We just had a totally dominant car. We were running on the Goodyear tire. Everybody had Firestone. And we qualified on the pole, won the first segment. So you go to the rear, which you're very familiar with. And I ended up between the two dragons, and getting a shot in the rear from Beaver and getting roughed up by Bobby. So through that whole second segment, I was just battling between the two dragons, and we eventually got by and won the race. And then went out for the third segment, and a smarter person would have just took whatever position he needed to win it. But we went for it all. We ended up winning all three segments, and a few other people have done it since, like Robbie Crouch. But that was just a good battle, being wedged between two dragons all day.
So we've obviously mentioned the Milk Bowl. You're a three-time Oxford 250 winner, and the 50th anniversary was recently, which, of course, you were one of the Grand Marshals for. You won in 75, 85, and 92. Of those three wins, which one means the most to you, maybe, and why?
Wow. I really think it's different. They were so different. We had never really been successful at Oxford when we won the 70. We had never won a race at Oxford, and we were never really that competitive. But 75 just was a year that we just really hit stride. So that was extremely important to win a race of that magnitude. But then you go to 85, and of course we had our issue with NASCAR and Tom Curley. We were kind of bad boys on the outside looking in. But it was an open competition race, and everybody was free to come and run. And Bob Bass said, "I've got no problem with you Dion boys." So that was kind of poetic justice to go ahead and beat one of Tom Curley's guys, Joey Carafas, at that time. And then we moved forward to 92. Same deal, always kind of being the odd man out. We built our own race cars. We built them legal. We built them strong. We built them safe. But that's just not the way things were done. NASCAR just didn't like that independent nature that we have doing things our own ways. So they harassed us quite a bit, and we had trouble the week before. And we had decided not to run the race, and Mike Liberty had just bought the track from Bob Baer, and Mike got word we weren't going, and he called my brother Roger, and he said, "What's the issue?" He said, "We're just sick of dealing with NASCAR and inspection." And he said, "What will it take to get you there?" And my brother Roger says, "You go through inspection with us, Mike, and we'll be fine." So sure enough, 70, 80 cars show up. We go through inspection, and because NASCAR harasses us, told us we were illegal. So Mike turns to Mike Liberty, and Mike says, "Well, are you illegal?" He says, "Come on, Mike, let's go for a walk." Walked down the line, looked at a whole bunch of cars. He says, same thing. He said, "What the heck is going on?" Anyway, Mike walked back to the NASCAR officials. He said, "I own this track. This is a bunch of crap. Their car is legal." We ended up winning the race, and of course it was a hard time getting through inspection after. But Ken Farrington, who has passed away now, was a great official and a very fair man. And he just looked and he said, "That's enough of this crap." And he finally shook my hand. He said, "You guys are the winner." So they were all very important. There was a lot of drama in all of them. So I don't think I could pick one.
Dave, so go back to racing with Joe Carafas, and he's a mentor to me. And he, I grew up in the same town as him. He's a great race car driver.
Oh, sure. I know the Carafas family very well.
Joe would always talk about you as like one of the ultimate competitors, though. Like every time he talks about the guys in the series, it was like Diamond Dave Dion, and it was Dynamite Dave Dion, and what was the other name? There was another guy he always used to talk about, but he always talked about how
Probably
competitive.
Robbie Crouch and the
Yep,
Dragon.
Robbie Crouch. Yep.
Robbie Crouch was very good.
But he always talked about how competitive you were, and he did mention parts you guys were making that were a little different too. But it was funny how he always said it though. It was always how competitive you were, and I think that win at Oxford when you beat him was a big win in his mind too, because he obviously he thought he was going to win that race.
Well, he had it won, and I really don't know how I would have handled it if I would have bet him versus me. We just took the open lane and we got by him. It was more luck. It was all luck versus skill. I mean, the only thing I could say is I just kept pushing to try and to catch him. But the pass was just a lucky pass, and I've been to a couple Norwood reunions with him, and he said, "It ended my career." He almost never got over it, and I would have felt the same way. George Savory beat me on the last lap at Norwood, and it took me years to get over it. Years. I just thought it was so unfair that I led the whole race, and he passed me coming off the fourth turn. And I went, "Wow!" But I'm good friends with the Carafas family, and of course Harry Carafas and that whole bunch. We were all Ford people, and Harry helped me a lot because you almost had to reinvent the wheel to get a Ford to be competitive with the Chevrolet. There was just no parts out there. There was no real knowledge unless you became friends with the Wood brothers, which I did. But it was an uphill battle getting a Ford to be competitive, and the Carafas has helped me a lot.
Out of your 12 or so Cup races and a handful of Busch races in between there on the big stage, what sticks with you most from those races being with the more premier series outside of being on the local level here in New England?
Well, I became friends with Glenn Wood and the Wood brothers, and I always, and their engine builder at home in the Moody, Tommy Turner, and that was always my dream to at least try Winston Cup. So Glenn Wood kind of took me under it and said, "These are the tracks I think you should go to, Dave. You don't have real good equipment. I don't want to see you get hurt. He sent us to Michigan. It's wide. Different tracks. He just thought it would be too tough for me to go to a place like Darlington and those places. So we went to Dover, went to Richmond, which was a short. We went to Pocono. Anyway, we didn't accomplish much. We didn't have equipment that was that good. We didn't have pit equipment that was good. So no matter where we was running, we were going to be dead last after a pit stop. And so the Wood brothers weren't running every track at that time. And I called Glenn. He said, "Yeah, I heard you, didn't qualify at Michigan, blah, blah, blah." And Glenn said to me, "Dave, I think I've been sending you down the wrong road. I think you ought to go to the short track and show them how good a team you really are." So the next race after those three, we went to Richmond Fairgrounds, which was just a half-mile track then, and we qualified fourth. So that kind of shocked the world that a bunch of hicks from New Hampshire with a race car in the back of a school bus would get down there and we bumped Richard Petty back to fifth. He was doing an interview at the time, and they were congratulating for his great qualifying run. And they said, "Oh, you've just been bumped back to fifth, Richard." He said, "Who the heck bumped me?" They usually know who's capable of bumping. And the guy said, "We don't know who he is. We just know he came in a school bus." So it was.
No, go ahead. Finish that thought, Dave.
Well, that was basically handling, and when Leonard Wood, basically asked me, "What engine do you have in the car?" And I didn't have the high board heads. I didn't have the good cam. I didn't have anything. And Leonard said, "You were down about 150 horsepower. How could you possibly have qualified fourth. I said, you just have no idea how good a chassis my brother Paul is. Most people run, coast through the turns. We were running half throttle through the turns. So it was we got to do it. It was a treat. We ended up, the best we ever qualified was fourth. We finished ninth at Richmond one year. So it was pretty good for, guys from New England that really didn't have the resources.
So 2 questions I've got left that I'm not going to not ask and let you get out of here skate free.
Okay.
I've heard a story or two, possibly, about wrecking the pace car at Thunder Road. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing, and then and as I wrap it up, it's not so funny. The pits were outside the track, so we were having problems. So you could pass the field, and as long as you didn't pass the pace car, you could turn into the pits, and you had to be back out before the pace car got back. Well, we did a quick jacket up and whatever, and the pace car was coming down the front stretch, and I come roaring out of the pits. There was no speed limit. I was probably running over scales and maybe a few people trying to get out on the track, and I had to beat the pace car. And I launched over that bank and right in front of the pace car, and Mike Stefanik had decided maybe I better pit. So the next lap, he decided when he got to the entrance pit road, he came in, I'm coming out. He caught me in the left rear, turned me sideways, and I drilled the pace car. Bounced off it, but ended up in front of it, didn't lose a lap. And until we lost Mike, we still used to joke about it. And I said, Mike, when are you going to tell the story that you hit me? That's why I hit the pace car. He says, Dave, I'm having way too much fun with this. and this is the sad part, was he jokingly said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm taking that to my grave. And when Mike passed and I got the word that we had lost him because we were friends, it was just so sad and ironic that we joked about it. He actually said that to me. And It was like, oh my God. And every time we joke or talk about that pace car issue, I think of my friend Mike.
Absolutely.
And loses. I hardly ever got close to anyone in racing except Mike. And we never talked racing, just kind of, you're running good. Yeah, you're running good. How's your daughters? How's your daughter? And we would just talk about our family. We didn't care anything about racing. It's just so sad.
Special guy for sure, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
On a happier note, the final question I've got for you tonight. 1996 Busch North champion. Tell us a little bit about that season. What still sticks with you today?
Once again, I'll bring my friend Mike Stefanik in with. And I would go to Foxwoods Casino, stop in Coventry, go see Julie at the speed shop, pick up some parts, hang out with Mike, go home. Julie invited me to the house when Mike was out driving a truck. Said, Dave, would you stay for dinner? It's Mike's birthday. What a surprise that would be. He's going to come home from work. You're going to be here, blah, blah, blah. So we had a beautiful home, and he showed me all the trophies like a shrine. And I'm looking, oh, my God, I can't believe what you've accomplished. And you're like, wow. And I used to make this dumb comment. I don't care about championships. I just care about winning a race. And Mike says, you have no idea how hard it is to win a championship. He says, I'll check back with you at Lime Run. We lead the points all the way. We're going to a track that I'm terrible at. I don't even qualify. I use a provisional to get in the race. We're going to lose this championship because I can't drive a road course. And Mike comes over the morning of the race and getting ready to go. He puts his arm around me. He says, how you feeling, buddy? I said, I got to go throw up. He said, I told you it's going to be bad. And I went, oh, my God. He said, well, you're going to find out who your friends are, and you're going to find out what life is like, how people treat you. And that, running that race is really a backmarker and get the respect I got from my fellow competitors I raced with all those years. To not be the one that caused me a championship had as much meaning to me as the championship itself.
Excellent. Joined here this week by Dynamite Dave Dion, a New England staple for sure, 1996 Busch North Series champion, 3-time Oxford 250 winner, and 1975 Thunder Road Milk Bowl winner. Dave, an absolute pleasure to have you on the show tonight. We appreciate it, and talk to you down the road soon.
It was an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.